Hello, hello everybody. Welcome back to Cocktails and Rocktails with Notorious Groupie. Me, Allison Rouse. Thank you guys for all the love, and for those of you who don't know, I'm a Notorious Groupie, part of rock and roll history, having been with John Entwistle from The Who when he died, and author of this little ditty right here. This book we've got tonight, The Life and Times of Notorious Groupie Me. It's not even half the story, folks. Book 2 is coming. Coming like the rock stars did in the 80s. And speaking of rock stars from the 80s, that's going to be our subject today. But I'm going to start first by thanking everybody for all the love, all the support, all the amazing comments and the views, and everybody who's just sticking through. I mean, I've met some really amazing people that I call friends, and that's what I consider the people who subscribe, and everybody, you're all my friends. So thank you for bringing a whole bunch of love into my life. I hope I can bring some sort of joy and happiness and love back into yours. So thank you guys. And today we're going to kind of go onto the business side of rock and roll that people don't really know about. Because I was picking one of my niece's friends up the other day from a surgery and getting him back to, his hotel and stuff and make sure. Anyway, and across from the surgical center was one of the Claw, the U2 stage, from the tour probably, I would say around 2011, 12, somewhere around there. Put a picture of it in here somewhere, like I always do, because I'm learning how to use my Vimeo app now. So I'm getting a lot of little stupid special effects. I'm just having fun with it, so just put up with me, you guys. Just because it's just fun. All right, so we're going to talk about a little fact about U2 that a lot of people don't know, because when I saw the stage, he was asking me what it was, and I told him, this is one of U2's stage, one of, and that's the key word. So I've been filming and just sort of opened up one of my favorites. These guys, and I'm just going to finish it off because it's a big ball. I like my things big. But so, everybody, kick up your feet, grab your udders, and let's have a cocktail and rocktail. Cheers, big ears. Okay, so, like I said, what a lot of people don't know is that U2 owns the biggest production company in the world for rock and roll and the road. It's, I always forget the name. I want to say it's called Stageco, but it's based out of Holland because, U2's so rich they can't afford, they want all the tax breaks they can get. And in Holland, they get a lot of tax breaks. So, and I don't know how long ago they started it, but it's been around for quite a while. And any of the big tours you see with the big elaborate stages, the fireworks, like I said, the Claw stage that they had, there's actually 4 of those. 4. And there were 4 different road crews to build that stage. Their key road crew, like their guitar techs, the lighting techs, the sound tech, the monitors guy, there was only one of those, and they traveled with the band day to day. Now, the road crew that did the stages, they leapfrogged each other. So you'd have, in one city, you'd have the band playing on one stage. While they were building it, it took like 3 or 4 days to build. The band would play on it, then it would take another 3 or 4 days to tear down. And so on, so on. So each stage was in a process of being built, torn down, or played on for that tour. So, and they employed just hundreds of, these tours were so big, there was probably 30 tour buses, all in different cities at different times. But they just happened to start that tour here in Salt Lake City. So, yeah, there are 4 of those stages. They do Metallica, they do the Rolling Stones, like Madonna, Beyonce, they design these stages. So it's not just, it's working with an artist for months and months and months deciding what they want on the stage, how they want their lightings, what they want the shape of the stage to look like, whether it's going to be up against the wall or in the middle of the crowd, or if there's going to be, you know, aerobatics or lights moving or fire, pyrotechnics. Everything is done on a painstaking scale in close proximity with the artist to kind of build the stage that they want to have. So, I mean, this production company is huge. So you have your lighting designers, you have your stage designers, your set designers, your pyrotech guys, your sound guys and stuff like that, because you've got to make sure that you can fit your monitors and your speakers and everything all over the place. Because, you know, most people, when they're at a concert, they're so busy looking at the theatrics that they're not looking at the technical aspect of that stage. And if you ever look up and all kinds of stuff, like the guys in Nickelback on one of the tours would come running out in a back way to the sound FOH, which is the soundboard in the middle of the crowd, and they had a mechanical cage that they would all play in and stuff and float over the crowd, kind of like Motley Crue back in the day when Tommy Lee had the rotating and flying drum kit. These things take forever just to get designed. And like I said, I mean, even the trusses have to be designed that hold the speakers and the lighting and stuff. They have to be designed to go around the stage. You have to find the people who know how to set it up, you know, where the cords are going to go, where the equipment's going to go, like the guitars and stuff and the basses and stuff on the side of the stage, because as we know, guitarists and bass players, they switch out their gear, their guitars throughout the show most of the time. So there's all these little, and you know, are you going to have a little village under that stage? Because as we know from the Def Leppard in the 80s, there's a lot of stuff going on under that stage, and most people under that stage have their knickers on. There's not a whole lot of dirty stuff. I mean, some bands still do the under the stage fun activities, blowjobs, whatever, you know, but most of the time under that stage, there's roadies working, there are things moving from the previous band getting the fuck out of there. It's crazy. So, and then U2, Stageco provides the road crew guys, so they have a bunch of road crew guys on and off contract to go out for different tours. Jake is one of their big production managers, so they have production managers. They have techs. They have all kinds of people that work with Stageco to go out on these huge ass tours. Like I say, there's so many tours, and there was a couple tours. Metallica even had 2 stages, and the stage crew leapfrogging each other to build and tear down, build and tear down. So it's not easy just trying to get the stage designed for the show. And a lot of people, I say this all the time, rock and roll, when you're on the road, it starts at 7 a.m. and ends at 2 a.m. on a show day. Because the way it kind of works is the road crew, they come down in stages, because you got to have the guys that build the stage and the trusses to put the lights in and the gear and everything on. So you have the stage crew that comes down and the stage manager, and the production managers, they're all day. So, because the stage manager, production manager, tour manager, all different jobs. So, production manager's obviously in charge of the whole crew and making sure everything runs on time and all the bits and pieces are there and loaded and unloaded correctly and so on, so on. Tour manager is more, he's got to keep the band in line on time for everything from the gigs to interviews to sound check to meet and creeps, everything. So that's a tour manager. Stage manager is the guy who makes sure everything on the stage is running smoothly and telling the guys, no, this needs to go this way a little more, or we need to turn this down a little more, so on, so on. So that's just, so lobby call at 7 a.m. You got your stage crew. Then you got like the people who put up the speakers and the light that go. Then you have the guys, all the techs who are bringing out the guitars, the sound. They're making sure everything's going good, you know. So, and it, like I said, comes in stages, but then you've got to get everything in, you've got to get everything set up, you've got to get a bunch of road cases out of the way. And when you're backstage and there's all those big long cords and wires and stuff. Yeah, really stay the fuck away out of those ways. Like, step over them. Don't trip over them. Don't be an asshole and get in the way of one of the crew guys or the local crew guys trying to move everything around. Because these guys are working on a very tight schedule, everything has to go in order the way it's planned to keep the show on time for the crowd. You know, and long before the crowd gets there, this is all going on. So you have all the lobby calls, and then everything comes down at the end of the night in reverse order. Because you got to take everything down. It's like the gear is the first thing to go, from the guitars to the drum set to the FOH board to the monitors. Then you have the speakers, then you have the lighting, then you have the trusses, then you have the stage, the cords, everything packed up into all their rider trucks. So yeah, this is kind of the business side of it. People don't realize how much work goes into this, and we've got to all hail the road crew. I mean, this is why Lemmy had a whole song for the road crew, but you know, because these guys work their ass off and they've been partying or hanging out with friends, or these days it's not so much partying, there's still the hotel bar, but kind of tend to be a little more conscious about what time they got to get up in the morning and what time they have to be at the gig and what time they got to be done by, and whether they have to be on the bus, because every tour, if they have to leave that night, 2 a.m. is the last minute that any bus can pull out and be on to the next show. Sorry, I keep having to burp. Love my beer. So yeah, that's why I say 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. rock and roll is the most structured, and it's every city to city to city to city. Now, when they were putting up the U2 stages, you know, and leapfrogging, same deal. It was, those guys were up there from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. 12 hours. Doing that stage, putting it up, tearing it down, making sure everything was regulation, because that stage is covered by insurance. So are those roadies. And the stage has to be put up just so that everything fits on, and the speakers have to be done just so, and the sound has to be, you know, equalized, and the monitors, because the monitors are the speakers you see on stage facing the band, because that's how they hear how their music sounds. And the big speakers is controlled, for what the crowd hears is controlled by the guy out in the crowd, the FOH, front of house is what that means. So there's different sounds that they just have to perfect and get equal and balance, and you know, and that's why they do sound check, is obviously so the guys can hear, and you know, that takes a couple hours sometimes depending on the tour. Like I said, every one of those roadies, every band member, every piece of that equipment is insured. Can't go on the road without it. Have to pass the insurance physical. And sometimes that's fudged, as we found out with John, because John passed his tour with 75 to 100% blockage in his arteries. And with scarring on his heart that had, and this is something I don't know, I think I'm the only one that actually talked about this, because there was scarring on his heart that indicated a milder previous heart attack, or whatever they want to call it. So how he passed his physical for the tour insurance, I do not know. But you know, he needed to go on the road, and a doctor's willing to sign off because he's a rock star. So that's kind of, you know, a backstage insight into what's really going on behind the scenes of rock and roll, and like how rock and roll is so intricately connected. Like I said, with U2 owning the biggest production company in the world, half of those stages you see on the biggest tours are from their company. A lot of the road crew works for their tours that they do, and they've been around for a really, really long time. And you know, don't be, if you see roadies running around at the show, don't be all bothering them to, hey, can you get this to my favorite rock star? Hey, can you give me a backstage pass? Dude, I want to meet the band. Don't be bothering them while they're at work. between 4 p.m. and the beginning of that show, or when they have to go on with that band or get back to work doing the sound or tearing down the stage or tuning the guitars, whatever, after 4 p.m., then bother them. Ask them for the passes. Ask them to take something back, because that's when they're not busy. When you see them busy, no, leave the guys alone. And that's why I always say rock and roll is one of the most repetitive day-to-day businesses in the world. People want to say that my book is so repetitive, so repetitive. You guys are not reading the book correctly. Every story starts out the same at the hotel bar. But what's happening in between is the real meat and potatoes. You're not reading my book correctly. You're reading it with an attitude. So, yeah, my book can get repetitive because that's rock and roll. It's the same thing day to day. City to city, 7 a.m. lobby call, 2 a.m. pullout. Day off, you've got about really 6 hours in a day off just to fuck off, because you're getting in town probably around noon, because check-in time isn't till 1. I mean, you can get earlier and later check-in and check-out times, but usually around 1 o'clock. Checkouts, usually they get late ones around 1 p.m., which is why us groupies kind of lounge in the hotel room after the boys leave. Because it's like, hey baby, why don't you just stay here? I've got to go. I'll talk to you soon. Check out, it's 1. Just leave the keys on the desk. I'm like, okay. So, but that's why my book is so repetitive in a lot of ways, how I start and end the nights. Or how I start the nights anyway. Because how I end them and what's going on after the start of the night is what's different. But rock and roll is so scheduled. It just goes city to city, same hours, same thing every day, day in, day out. That's behind the scenes. I mean, you've got the managers and the booking agents. I forgot to mention the booking agents, because the booking agents, they book the hotels, which is why in every city, like, it was 20 years at the Marriott, the bands were staying there. It's been another 20 years. Well, it's 10 years at the Marriott, but another 20-something years that they've been staying at the same hotel here, the Monaco. From Metallica to Journey to Robert Plant, all of them, because they get deals. The booking agents who book the hotels, they get deals on not only the size of the tour coming through and how many rooms that they're blocking out. They get deals for staying at other hotels in the chain or owned by the company. So the booking agents are always hard, and then you have the booking agents who are booking the gigs from arena or club or whatever. I mean, just to get that show to you guys takes anywhere from 100 to 200 people, depending. If it's a really small tour, it might take 30. But you see what I'm saying? Just to get that show to you for that one night, excuse me. Sorry, coming from a humid atmosphere to another dry atmosphere is kind of messing with my sinuses again. And coming back to Utah, where my allergies are horrible. Anyway, so for you guys to see that one night, that has taken probably about 10 months of planning. And it's taken about 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. is the average, average show for a regular arena concert starts at 7 p.m. with the opening band, between 7 and 8. Depending on how smoothly the day has run, because, you do run into incidences where you might run late getting on stage. You might have something wrong with the sound or the lighting or the pyro that needs extra attention. So just to get that show started at 7 p.m., those guys have already been there 12 hours. The band's been there since 4, doing sound check. Because that's, on the average, that's when 3 to 4, depending on if you're opening or headlining band, that's the sound check. So groupies, get to the arena if they're not in town the night before. Get there around 2 o'clock, I would say. Because then you can kind of go see where the band's going in and stuff, and be there when they pull up for sound check. So there you guys go. It's, like I said, super repetitive, a lot of work goes on for months before just to get that show for 2 hours for you guys that night. And most of it's brought to you by U2, because those guys aren't rich enough, and you know, they need all the tax breaks they can get. And this is another reason they haven't really had to do any albums, and they don't really have, I don't even know if they have a record company anymore. I think they're so completely independent, because that company, that production company, makes them so much fucking money, because it's not just designing the stages. They own the trusses, they own lighting, they own all kinds of equipment that is rented out for that tour. And this is why U2, I think, is out playing right now. But when was the last time they actually made a new album? They're too busy with their production company. They're too rich. They don't need to do anything anymore. They've become rather droll, so they don't have any good music left in them. That's why they have to keep playing the old stuff. At least that's my opinion. Alright, so there you guys go. Now you know what it takes to get you that concert for that one night, just to get there. They've been planning for a year. So when you're at the next concert, thank that road crew. Thank the guys who are hanging from the light, the local road crew. Well, no, they're good guys, but they don't go in. They do a lot of the physical labor, so thank them for all the physical labor. But those guys who are on tour with the band, the roadies, fucking rock, man. Those guys work their asses off so that the musicians can be rock stars for the night, so that you can look at them as gods on that stage. They put up those theatrics that put on the show for you guys. So thank the road crew, you guys. Thank you too for owning the biggest construction company in the world, or production construction. Kind of the same thing, but much bigger than, and so many regulations and insurance and so many things. So thank the road crew. Next time you guys are at a show, give a shout out to them, because those guys work their asses off, and they go all over the world in 24 hours, every city 24 hours at a time. They don't get the breaks and the planes and everything else that the rock stars do. They get really good catering though, and sometimes blowjobs, especially in Little Rock. Well, not in Little Rock anymore. So, alright guys, thanks for listening to my babble today. I will see you guys very soon. Again, I've got some more goodies coming. I've got a good one about a certain lead singer and his wardrobe girl. That's coming, sweet pea. Alright guys, like I always say, hit that share button. Let's get me out there. Spread me like I spread my legs in the 80s. Hit that subscribe. Hit the bells. We'll see you next time here on Cocktails and Rocktails. Cheers, big ears.